Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts.
Hey there. It's really good to be back today.
It is, and we just have a monster of a lineup for this deep dive.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, Pat.
Because, usually when we talk to you guys listening, we're talking about the magic of a cruise.
Right, the seamless escape.
Exactly. The seamless vacation. You walk across the gangway and someone hands you a drink with a little umbrella and the real world just kind of dissolves.
That's the dream.
That's the dream. But today's stories, they're basically a masterclass in the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, we are definitely seeing the rusty gears today.
We really are. We're looking at the tangled wires and the very human sweat that keeps that whole illusion floating.
I think that is the perfect way to frame it. Because today we are peeling back the curtain on I guess you'd call it the fragility of the cruise ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
We have three sources today that map perfectly to the three pillars of the industry. So you've got the software, the humanware, and the hardware.
I like that.
Right. Because when the digital brain breaks, you get chaos.
Yeah.
And when the human workforce pushes back, operations just stall out.
And when the hardware gets too ambitious.
Exactly. It threatens to rewrite the entire business model.
So here's the roadmap for what we're going to cover. First, we're dissecting this massive fleet-wide Carnival tech outage from earlier this month.
Which is the whole thing.
A huge thing. And it's not just about a glitchy app. It's about how these ships are essentially floating data centers now.
Right.
Second, we are heading down to Darwin, Australia for a really tense standoff involving the Carnival Encounter, the local unions, and safety regulators.
A lot of crew welfare issues being raised there.
Yeah, heavy stuff. And finally, we'll shift gears to the arrival of the Disney Adventure in Singapore, which is just a record-breaking behemoth.
That Disney story is fascinating. It might honestly signal the end of travel as we know it in cruising.
That is a very bold claim.
I stand by it.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have to start with the digital meltdown.
Right. The Carnival outage.
So this kicked off on Sunday, February 8th, 2026.
And just to be clear up front, this wasn't a case of, like, someone spilling coffee on a server down in Miami.
Right.
This was a fleet-wide system maintenance update that just went completely sideways during active operations.
Which brings up my first question, honestly. Why on earth are they running a massive system update when ships are actively trying to turn around passengers?
I know, it sounds crazy.
Right. Like in any other business, you do your IT maintenance at, 3 in the morning on a Sunday when no one is in the office?
Yeah, but cruise ships don't have downtime.
Yeah.
That is the operational paradox of this industry.
There are 247 cities.
Exactly. There is literally never a good time to reboot the brain.
Yeah.
But this specific update, it snarled operations at multiple homeports.
We saw delays for guests trying to board the Carnival Breeze, the Glory, and the Freedom.
Yeah, Carnival actually had to tell people to push their arrival appointments back by a full 2 hours.
Which, if you've been in those terminals, that is a nightmare scenario.
Oh, totally.
You've got thousands of people, luggage everywhere, little kids crying, and suddenly the line just stops moving.
It's miserable.
But the ripple effect is what really caught my eye, because it wasn't just that people couldn't get onto the ships.
The ships couldn't leave.
Right.
It's the whole Internet of Things problem. You have the Carnival celebration, the Venezia, the Spirit, the Pride. They all reportedly didn't leave until after midnight.
After midnight.
Yeah. And they were physically ready to go. The engines are running, the fuel is loaded, the provisions are on board, but they were digitally paralyzed.
Because the ship itself is basically just a giant permission slip at this point.
That's a good way to put it. Modern ships are entirely integrated. The bridge systems, the safety manifests, the gangway security, it's all one giant network. If the system cannot verify the passenger manifest with 100% accuracy to the shoreside authorities,
they can't legally untie the ropes.
Exactly. It is a regulatory hard stop.
And while the IT guys were sweating over the servers trying to fix this, the passenger communication basically went back to the Stone Age.
Oh my gosh, the texting.
Right. Guests were told they had to text the word cruise to 278473 just to get updates.
And they were getting these weird automated codes back.
Yeah, getting codes like CCL1 or CCL2. I mean, it felt very 2005.
It really highlights a lack of redundancy in the modern passenger journey.
How so?
Well, you know how we are all so used to push notifications now? We rely on app alerts for everything.
Right.
When that digital pipeline bursts, the cruise lines have to revert to these really clunky batched SMS blasts.
And the chaos on board the ships was even more telling. because the Carnival Hub app just died.
And that app is basically the remote control for your entire vacation.
It is. So suddenly there are no dinner check-ins, no chat features, no deck plans.
What did they do? They had to print paper.
The glorious return of the fun times. I mean, for years, old-school cruisers have been complaining that the lines are killing the paper newsletters to save money and go green.
And then the moment the servers crashed, those Xerox machines became the most important pieces of hardware on the ship.
Paper doesn't crash.
It really doesn't. But there was one specific detail from the report that I think is just fascinating. It really gets to the psychology of the modern cruiser.
You're talking about the sail and sign cards.
Yes.
Okay, so let's dig into this for a second. Usually, you get your card at the terminal. It's your room key, it's your onboard credit card, it's your ID.
Everything.
But because the systems were down, they couldn't print them or assign them properly. So at the end of the cruise, they were physically collecting the cards from guests, and they were not giving them back.
Right. Which makes sense. For security reasons, they couldn't just reprint them later and hand them out willy-nilly.
Sure, logistically it makes sense. But to an outsider, this probably sounds like a minor annoyance, like, oh no, I didn't get to keep my piece of plastic.
But in the cruise world,
That card is currency.
it is absolute status.
It's color-coded. If you are a platinum or a diamond guest, that card is your badge of honor. It tells everyone sitting at the Alchemy Bar that you spent 200 days at sea.
It's a totally tribal thing.
It is. So taking that away and not letting them keep it as a souvenir is like telling an airline passenger, hey, you're still sitting in first class, but you can't board through the priority lane.
Yeah, it hurts the ego. People were furious.
They really were.
And I think it validates the idea that the product you are buying isn't just the destination. It's your status within that ecosystem.
That's a great point.
But if we look at the corporate response to all this, we saw a classic split between PR and operational reality.
Oh, this was wild. Because the official Carnival website was very calm. The statement was basically, navigation and safety systems are working.
Don't panic.
Right.
Huh?
We aren't going to hit an iceberg. Everything is fine.
But then you look at John Heald.
The brand ambassador.
Right. And he is fascinating because he often just bypasses the corporate filter entirely so he can speak directly to the superfans online.
And what he said was very different.
He stated very clearly that critical navigation and safety systems were impacted and that errors needed correction before they could depart.
So you have the corporate website saying safety is fine, and the guy on the ground communicating with the guests saying, actually, we need to fix the safety systems before we can even move.
It is a massive disconnect.
Huge.
And it highlights that tension between the boardroom, which desperately wants to project stability to the shareholders, and the reality of what's happening on the water.
Yeah.
When a fleet-wide update goes wrong like this, it proves that these ships are just floating computers.
If the software crashes, the vacation pauses.
Period.
Well, speaking of things pausing, let's transition from the digital brain to the heartbeat of the ship, the crew.
The humanware.
Right. Because while Carnival was fighting bad code over in the U.S., they were fighting a very different kind of battle over in Australia.
Yeah, this is the situation with the Carnival Encounter.
And just for some quick context for you listening, this ship used to be the Pacific Encounter for P&O Australia.
Right. It was just recently absorbed into the main Carnival fleet.
And it was on a repositioning voyage to Singapore for a big dry dock. It arrives in Singapore on February 16th and resumes service March 5th.
But it made a stop in Darwin, Australia.
And February 9th. And it wasn't just a quick fuel stop. Inspectors from AMSA actually boarded the ship.
And for those who might not know, AMSA is the Australian Maritime Safety Authority.
They are notoriously strict.
Very strict. Think of them as the FAA of the ocean. If AMSA says your ship doesn't move, it does not move.
And they boarded the Encounter because of a whistleblower complaint.
Right, filed by the MUA, the Maritime Union of Australia.
And we are just reporting on the source documents here, so we aren't taking sides. But the allegations the union released were brutal.
They really were.
They claimed that some crew members were earning as little as $2.50 an hour.
Which works out to roughly $600 a month.
They also alleged that crew members were being pressured to work while sick with gastroenteritis.
Which is obviously a massive safety and health risk on a closed-loop ship.
Absolutely. And then there was a claim that the free drinking water provided to the crew was foul and that they were being forced to buy bottled water for 70 cents a bottle, plus cramped living conditions leading to skin infections.
Yeah, we have to unpack that wage number first because $2.50 an hour always shocks people when they hear it.
Right, because in the U.S. or Australia, that's illegal.
It would be considered slave labor.
Mm.
But in the international maritime world, under the ILO, the International Labor Organization standards, the minimum wage for an ordinary seaman can actually be quite low.
Because it's tailored to their home countries.
Exactly.
No?
It's often scaled to the cost of living in places like the Philippines or Indonesia.
So technically it might be quote-unquote legal internationally,
Right.
but it looks terrible politically when you are docked in a Western country.
Precisely. And the MUA knows that. They know that citing a $2.50 wage in an Australian port is going to create a massive PR storm.
Especially when you add in the water detail. Imagine earning $2.50 an hour and having to spend nearly a third of your hourly wage just to buy one bottle of clean water.
It's a detail that makes passengers extremely uncomfortable.
It breaks the social contract of the vacation.
It really does. Because as a guest, you want to believe that the smiling crew member serving you dinner is happy and well cared for. Stories like this shatter that illusion.
But Carnival did fire back, and they did not hold back at all. They didn't just issue a polite no comment.
No, they went entirely on the offensive.
They were categorical. They stated that AMSA's inspection found absolutely no deficiencies.
Zero.
And that no follow-up action was required.
Right. So AMSA went on board, looked around, checked the logs, and essentially said, everything here is fine.
And AMSA did confirm they issued a report. They didn't make the actual details of it public, but they did say they take welfare seriously under the Maritime Labor Convention.
But the crucial thing is, the ship wasn't detained.
Right.
It was allowed to sail on to Singapore. If there were gross, undeniable violations of the MLC, AMSA would have chained that ship to the dock in Darwin.
So how do we end up with this huge gap between these horrific whistleblower stories and a totally clean government report?
Well, this is where the geopolitics come in. It's a chess game.
Okay.
The MUA has been arguing for years that foreign-flagged ships, like the Encounter, are exploiting legal loopholes so they can operate in Australian waters without paying Australian wages.
Ah, so they use these inspections as a pressure point.
Exactly. It's leverage. They want to highlight to the public that international standards are significantly lower than Australian standards.
So when Carnival responds by accusing the union of using vulgar and lame tactics for recruitment purposes...
Carnival is basically saying, look, we are following the global rules. Stop trying to force your local rules onto our international ship.
It really just emphasizes how volatile the crew experience is right now. It's just as delicate as the tech stack we talked about earlier.
Definitely. And, this ship is heading to Singapore right now for a facelift.
Right. New carpet, new paint.
But the reputational damage from headlines like that sticks around longer than a coat of paint.
It really does. But speaking of Singapore, let's pivot away from broken tech and labor disputes.
Let's talk about sheer, unadulterated ambition.
Yes. The Disney adventure. This is our palate cleanser for today, but honestly, it's also a total mind-bender.
It's a beast of a ship.
It just arrived in Asia, and the stats on this thing are ridiculous.
So it's officially launching from Singapore on March 10th, 2026. But it already made history on February 2nd.
At the Panama Canal.
Right. It broke the record for the largest passenger vessel by capacity and tonnage to ever squeeze through those locks.
It beat the Norwegian Bliss, which held the previous record.
Yeah.
Let's clarify tonnage for a second, though, because I think a lot of people assume that just means how much the ship weighs.
Right. Common misconception. Gross tonnage isn't weight. It's actually a measurement of internal volume.
Enclosed space.
Exactly. So the Disney Adventure is 208,000 gross tons.
Which is massive.
To give you a visual on that, that is significantly more internal volume than the Chrysler Building in New York, just floating on the water.
That is both terrifying and amazing.
It really is.
And it carries a small city's worth of people. The Panama Canal Authority listed it at about 6,700 passengers.
Though Disney is being a little bit more conservative with their numbers,
Yeah.
saying it's around 6,000.
Still, it's a huge density test. But the backstory of how this ship even came to exist is wild. Because this wasn't originally supposed to be a Disney ship at all.
No, this is basically the ultimate fixer-upper story, just on a billion-dollar scale.
Literally.
It actually started construction as the global dream. It was being built for Genting Hong Kong.
Right.
But then Genting went bankrupt. So you have this massive unfinished hull just sitting there in a German shipyard, basically destined for the scrap heap.
Enter the mouse.
Enter the mouse.
Yeah.
Disney swooped in and bought the hull for pennies on the dollar, relatively speaking, of course.
Right.
And then they worked with Meyer Werft and Walt Disney Imagineering
Right.
and poured about $2 billion into redeveloping it.
$2 billion.
Yeah. But because the hull was already designed by Genting specifically for the Asian market, the architecture is very high density.
And that density drives the entire strategy for this ship, which I think is the most radical part of the news here.
Oh, absolutely.
They are running 3- and 4-night cruises out of Singapore with 0 port calls.
None. 0.
Think about that for a second. Usually when you book a cruise, you tolerate the crowded sea days because, hey, on Tuesday you get to go lay on a beach in Phuket or the Bahamas.
Right.
Here, the ship is the only destination. There is nowhere else to go.
And from a pure business perspective, this is genius.
How so?
Well, we call it share of wallet. On a normal Caribbean cruise, maybe 30 or 40% of a passenger's spending happens on land.
Taxes, local restaurants, souvenirs.
Exactly. That is money leaving the cruise line's pocket.
Revenue leakage.
Right. But on the Disney adventure, there is nowhere for that money to leak to.
You are a captive audience for 3 days.
Every single meal, every drink, every Marvel plush toy, every spa treatment, 100% of that spend goes directly to Disney.
It's the Las Vegas casino model. But you literally cannot leave the building.
Exactly.
But to make that work, the ship has to be incredible, right? You can't just throw a pool and a buffet on the deck if people are trapped there for 72 hours.
Right. You need hardware that actually acts as a destination.
Yeah.
And they definitely built it. I mean, they have the Iron Cycle test run.
Which is the first roller coaster ever on a Disney ship.
Yeah, it's located in the Marvel landing zone. It's 820 feet of track just sitting on the top deck.
Crazy.
And then you have San Francisco Street themed to Big Hero 6. You have the Imagination Garden, Open Air Hub. You have Wayfinder Bay for Moana.
They literally built a theme park on a ship hull.
They did.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay.
6,000 people, no ports. Everyone is trying to ride the Iron Cycle or get a seat at the Moana show at the exact same time. Does this actually sound like a relaxing vacation, or is it basically a crowd control simulation?
That is the big risk here. The passenger density on this ship is incredibly high compared to Disney's other vessels.
Yeah.
If the Disney magic implies personal attention and having a bit of space, this model completely challenges that.
It really does.
It relies entirely on the brand being so strong that people are happy just being inside the Disney bubble, even if it's a very crowded bubble.
It's a bold experiment because if it works, you have to ask, why would they ever build a ship that needs to stop at a port again?
Exactly.
Why pay port fees to Jamaica or Nassau if you can just circle the ocean for 3 days and keep all the money?
That is the slippery slope. If the Disney adventure is a financial home run, we might genuinely see a bifurcation in the whole industry.
Like a split.
Right. You'll have travel cruising, where the point is actually going to see the world.
Right.
And then you'll have resort cruising, where the ocean is literally just a blue backdrop for a floating mall.
Wow. So bring it all together. We've really covered the full spectrum of the industry today.
We really have. It's a triad.
We started with the hardware, the Disney adventure, just pushing the absolute boundaries of size and economics.
And we have the software, the Carnival IT outage, reminding us that all that billion-dollar hardware is totally useless if the code isn't robust.
And finally, the humanware. The crew on the Carnival Encounter.
The invisible foundation of it all.
Exactly, because if you don't treat them right, or at least navigate the local labor politics carefully, the whole operation just hits a brick wall.
And I think the big takeaway is that as these ships get bigger, like the Adventure, and the systems get way more complex, the margin for error just disappears.
Yeah.
You cannot hide a failure when you have 6,000 people stuck on board and a digital manifest that won't load.
It really makes you appreciate the sheer logistics when it actually works. Like, it's a miracle anything leaves the dock on time.
It is a daily miracle of engineering and a lot of patience.
For sure. So, here is a provocative thought to leave you with today. We talked about how Disney is basically betting $2 billion that you don't actually care about the destination.
Right.
But if the ship itself is the entire destination and you never even get off, are we moving toward a future where the cruise lines don't even need the ocean anymore?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. Like, could they just build a massive landlocked structure, a cruise ship resort in the middle of a desert in Arizona to avoid maritime law and bad weather entirely?
You know, if the roller coaster is fun enough, people probably wouldn't even notice the difference.
Something to mull over while you plan your next escape. Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.